You can do hand reactions, and I'm trying to remember what they are. I think if I throw 2 thumbs up, there you go. Right? It's fireworks. So you can react with your hand. Welcome to the Refresh Techcast. This podcast is focused on not dino nuggets, but actually helping you understand technology. Today's topic, we're going to talk about iOS 17, iPadOS 17, all of the OS updates that are happening hopefully within the next couple of weeks, as well as macOS that should be happening possibly next October or sometime in October, and really what it all means to you. So I'm Arthur. I'm your one of your co-hosts, and then you have...
No, I'm Raymond.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
So Raymond's second co-host.
You're good. All right. We're going to jump into talking about iOS 17. And just to kind of preface this, Ray, you have not been using any of the betas, right?
No, I've been looking in from the inside or outside.
Gotcha. And I have been using pretty much all of the betas with the exception of tvOS and then the HomePod stuff. I have a HomePod mini, but I don't know about running the OS on there, so that's not updated. But iPadOS 17, iOS 17, watchOS 10, and macOS Sonoma, I've been running for a few weeks now, so we shall see kind of our thoughts. Starting with iOS 17, the first thing that they brought to the table at WWDC was contact posters. Of course, I don't know if you've seen the contact posters that they showed in WWDC, but they looked really nice.
Yeah, they look really good. I feel like it adds more life to each contact, and when they pop up on the screen when you're ready to answer the call, you just know immediately who it is.
Yeah. So I'll say this: setting it up in the beta was really confusing at first, mostly because it was a little buggy, so it didn't work immediately. And then the other thing is that once you set it up in the beta, it looks really nice. And it's gotten better. The most recent beta updates have been easier. I don't know what it looks like on the other side yet. So once I set up a contact poster and then I call someone on iOS 17, what it looks like, does it automatically push the contact poster to them, or do they have to accept something on their end for the contact poster to come through? But I've gone through with my contacts list for the most part, and for people that I mainly talk to, I've updated them with a contact poster. So when they call me, I see the contact poster, and just a side note, it shows up on watchOS too. So it's really nice. The contact poster takes up the whole screen, and it's really nice to see. So I really like where this is going. And of course, that led to what we'll talk about in a little bit, which is, the ability to share your contact over AirDrop or contact name drop, and being able to use that actually looks really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think just these quality of life features, as well as the contact features, obviously, and being able to distinguish people. I feel like just having the contact poster itself highlights who you're talking to, and you can already have what's going on in your mind, whether that's be your boss or your family member, you already got it going on in your head.
Yeah, exactly. So I think next up, they kind of went through the whole list of phone features. Next up that I had was live voicemail, and I wanted to get your take on live voicemail overall and what you think of the feature.
I think honestly, live voicemail is long overdue. This has been a feature on for house phones for a long time. The newer generations won't know the benefits of the home phone, these mobile devices. But home phones, having that available, already going on with voicemail, just live, you're able to use it immediately.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. Live voicemail is not necessarily the same feature as what Google pushes with the Pixel. but it's kind of close. And I had this several years ago when I was using a Pixel. So it does feel kind of weird that it's coming to iOS. But I agree with you. It is long overdue to be able to kind of see a transcription of the voicemail as it's being left and decide if you want to accept the call or not. They've made some changes in the beta since they first announced it. So apparently, when you answer the phone or when you send someone to live voicemail, it used to say that um, that the call is almost like the way Google had set it up, which is the call is kind of being screened and the person may pick up. They've just changed it back to the traditional voicemail message, which is, this person can't answer the phone. Please leave a message. Because they didn't want to give the impression that someone might pick up the phone because maybe you didn't actually send them to live voicemail.
Right. That might have been just something on the side,
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm nowhere near my phone. Don't give them the false hope that, hey, I'm going to answer
Yeah.
in a second.
Right. Or you see just angry live voicemails being ran across. Answer your phone. I know that you can see this.
Yeah. I know you're there. Answer the phone. It's your
Yeah.
boss. Angry.
I know you're screening this right now. But I think it's pretty cool. It's looking at it inside of there. I've only tried I haven't screened anyone that I know. So I've only tried screening people that didn't actually want to leave a voicemail. But you can see it activate. And in on phones with the dynamic island, it's weird because if you decline the call, it throws up a little voicemail symbol right next to the camera. And it kind of threw me off at first. And I was like, why is it not showing me the whole thing? You click on that to be able to see the whole live voicemail. So that's something to get used to with iOS 17. But I didn't really have anything else for phone. So cool. You want to jump over to iMessage? Some of those changes?
Yeah, one of the things I really like about the iMessages right now is the new check-in feature, especially like this check-in
Yeah.
feature that they're going to be introducing with families. This is going to be great for
Mm-hmm.
like parents like yourself with your kids, like whether it be like them
Yeah.
going to school or just a loved one like your wife or husband going to work. You just want to make sure they're okay. I can definitely see this
Yeah.
becoming a feature
Yeah.
though with jobs in the future. Like if you got a
Mm-hmm.
traveling job as well, like it can send to your boss,
Oh,
which
yeah.
can be a positive or a negative depending on how you see it. But I think overall it's a great
I
feature.
can see that though. Yeah. I can say that, when I've traveled, my boss likes to check in periodically. So it'd be nice to be able to, just let them know that, yeah, no, I made it to where I was traveling to that day. And, I'm here safely in the hotel and things like that. So, but definitely for loved ones, family, and friends, it's great feature to be able to just know and have the system automatically do it because I've been bad at this, not actually just forgetting to send the message until later, like hours later, or even like the day after. So I think having the system automate that function is really key. And then as I was rewatching WWDC, I thought it was also really cool to note that it sends, if you don't check in and you don't actually respond to the phone trying to check in with you, that it sends automatic information like potential location, iPhone signal, battery life. So that way the person gets a lot of detail as to what could potentially be happening with you. Maybe you're just in a bad area and there's no very low signal, or maybe you're stuck in traffic and things like that.
Yeah, definitely a quality of life feature. I think this will be just with how dangerous the world has become. Like this, it almost feels like this is
Yeah.
essential for your loved ones to make sure they're okay.
Oh, yeah.
They get hit and run or ran off the road or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So just to make sure your family is safe and secure. One of the
Yeah,
things I did
exactly.
notice is that there will be an option with the iMessages where it will automatically delete old verification codes. on your iMessages,
Yes.
automatically
It
delete notification codes so they're no longer cluttering your screen for iMessages.
Yep. And I'm really bad at deleting these messages, and it actually populates when you're getting verifications. Hey, would you like me to automatically delete these? And I think you can do it by text thread. So it doesn't have to be like maybe you want to keep some for some odd reason. But yeah, that works. And it works really well because I went to look back and see if the text message thread was there and it was gone. So I can vouch, yes, this feature works great and gives you peace of mind and doesn't take up the whatever little bit of storage that it is taking up, but it doesn't take up that space anymore. And it kind of declutters your message thread overall.
Yeah, I definitely think the clutter
The other thing,
would be like very helpful. I
yeah.
get the verification codes cluttering, and I have to scroll down to just to text
Oh,
some family.
yep, exactly. The other thing that kind of takes away clutter in iMessage too that I like, but it takes a little bit of time to get used to, is all of the apps now get hidden away, and that happens across iMessage on every platform. So they all get hidden away into this plus icon that shows up on the left side of your message. When you tap on that, it'll populate. It's supposed to populate with the most common ones that you would use, and then if you want to see all of the message apps, you can swipe up and it'll actually just show up and bring up the whole list of apps. And it'll take some time to get used to. I never really liked having the apps show up at that where they were before, right above the keyboard. And I like it now that they show up, that they're tucked away in case I need them.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I did notice with the new messaging is the difference in the replies. Now you can swipe left to right on a specific message if you want to reply
Yep.
to them rather than hold down. I feel like that's great,
Yep.
especially if if you might sometimes you want to react to a certain message, and you might
Yep.
accidentally reply, like very rarely, but if you fat finger it, it happens. So I definitely see this as a
Yeah, it
benefit.
does. Oh, yeah. Yeah, or even if you're using it one-handed, it makes it a lot easier instead of having to tap and hold, because that's not as easy in action. So it's much easier to swipe. So
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And then the other kind of quality of life thing is if for some reason you have a person that just likes sending you audio messages, now you can have the system transcribe them. So if you're in a place where you can't listen to the audio message or you don't want to put the phone to your ear and make it seem like you're taking a phone call, you can actually just the system have the audio message transcribed for you. And I think that's a huge thing, especially if you're in a meeting and you just want to know what's going on, things like that. I could say my wife does this constantly. This does not happen in the app that we use for messaging yet, but it's going to be a nice thing inside of iMessage.
Definitely. I think overall that's just I feel like this iOS update is just filled with like lots of quality of life updates, as well as like
I agree.
something I did notice if you're trying to like send photos or videos or whatnot, or maybe you might be finding
Mm-hmm.
like a specific photo or someone. They have new filters, like search filters for
Yep.
iMessages, so you can just
Mm-hmm.
quickly find whatever you're looking for. I think
Yeah.
that's just it's very something very like tiny, but it can definitely make a difference in your time, and time is definitely valuable.
Oh, yeah. I think optimizing search is always going to be a great feature. So, and improving things. And those are going to be minor things that you may not notice until you're actually utilizing it. So, I agree. Cool. Anything else in iMessage that you think?
Not really. I think just what I've seen in iMessage so far, I think these are all great points.
Yeah.
I did notice with the transitioning to FaceTime, similar
Yeah.
to iMessages, they have FaceTime audio messages and video messages now.
Yep. Yep. So now if you are trying to FaceTime someone and you're not able to reach them, whether it's video or audio, you can now leave them basically what's like a voicemail or a video message. So that way they can understand what it is that you were trying to call them for, instead of before, which is you would just get the call failed or unable to connect, or they're not available, and you just can't do anything other than maybe send them a message or try to call them on the regular phone. So I think being able to do that is a huge thing um, for FaceTime. And I think it just, like you said before, just continues to improve quality of life.
Definitely. And then on top of that, something I'm sure we'll lead into later on is the FaceTime coming into Apple TV.
Yep. I think this is going to be a really cool thing.
Definitely.
But I think the key thing there is trying to figure out. So they were using a mount in WWDC that I'm not sure is available yet. But that's going to be a key thing as to where you're going to place your iPhone for continuity. But I'm sure they'll start selling things, or you could use like a tripod or something like that.
Well, from what I saw of it, they got an automatic where it automatically centers you into with their continuity camera, it automatically centers you into the middle frame so that it can track you.
Yep, and then that is using the center stage technology, and then if you add more people into the frame, it tries to center around them. Or if someone enters frame from another angle, it tries to widen and then tries to bring them as close together as they can be. So I think it'll be cool. I'm curious to see how the microphone works with that, because I assume that it's going to use the TV speakers for audio. And I saw a cool thing, and this will lead into Apple or tvOS later, but SharePlay also works with this too, which is going to be really cool. But yeah, pretty much the main update to FaceTime is that it's coming to tvOS, and it's also the ability to record video and audio messages. This next thing, by far, is probably one of my favorite things about iOS 17. So now when you're charging your device, and I've learned this, whether you're using a MagSafe charger or you're just charging your device and you have it standing up in landscape, you can enable what's called standby mode. Standby mode is basically what makes your iPhone kind of look like one of those like Alexa or Google Home devices, like a small display where it can display time, it can display widgets, it can display photos. And, I think you haven't tested the feature, but I'd like to get your take on what you think about this. And then I'll share more about my experiences with it so far.
I think this will be just a great option. Like, I know that there's many different products out there where you can like buy these specific things to charge your phone in certain different ways. You can have landscape or whatnot, but this can also work like an updated feature, like maybe intended, maybe not intended, as like your alarm. There's a bigger screen. As soon as you wake up, the alarm's going off. You have two screens of widgets that you can just look at. Maybe like a reminder on one side and then your alarm on the other. It's something nice to wake up to. You don't have to buy a fancy alarm clock now. You can just buy a fancy phone.
Exactly. Or when you're traveling, it becomes like your nightstand clock. So you don't have to use the hotel's clock. You could just bring a little, maybe portable MagSafe, like foldable. I've seen these like trifold MagSafe chargers that you could set up. But yeah, it's a really cool feature. And in my experience, it looks really cool. So I have a MagSafe charger on my desk at work, and I'll just pop my phone on there when I need to charge it. And honestly, it just looks so great as like just like a desk clock. And just having, the time, I could flip through widgets if I wanted to, and just have it display additional things. One minor thing that I don't like about it this is not even something that's that important. I don't like having an analog clock for a digital device. So that's like a minor thing. But when you're on the widget options, I've not found a digital clock version. So I can't like display all of the cool widgets that they have and a digital clock. It has to be an analog clock for that. This is a minor thing. I use the main one that I use is like the big clock, if you've seen it, and it like displays a small weather. That's my favorite one, and then you can change the color of the clock. And then a side note, um, in low light, the clock changes to red. No matter, and the display overall changes to red no matter what scenario you're in, and it does that just because similar to what they announced this with like the Apple Watch Ultra, the ability for it to change to a red clock. But when you're in darkness, so yeah, that's cool. It worked. The one time I saw it work, it was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I was just looking at my phone, and I was like, "What? Why is it red right now?" I guess the ambient sensor was like, "Hey, the lighting is really low in here," and I was like, "The sun is out, though. I guess it's just a dark room." But this by far is my favorite feature of iOS 17. I need to buy more MagSafe chargers now to be able to place them all over the place. And then the nice thing is that if you have one on your desk, on your nightstand, on a different desk, downstairs, in different sections of your house, it knows which MagSafe charger I'm guessing as long as you don't buy the same brand. I don't know. But it understands the placement, and then it goes to the display that you prefer for that placement. So that's cool. I like that. And then I put a side note here. With all of this function and with where the HomePod is going, is this kind of like the early HomePod with a screen look? Because you can also invoke Siri on this.
I could definitely see that happening. I definitely see, like, I feel like on the one hand, Apple is very behind in this field, but I know that, for example, you have this, the Google Nest Hub, where you got that screen and the whole speaker system. Like, I feel like Apple's slowly making their way into that field, somewhere where I feel like they've fallen behind and they need to catch up.
I'm thinking, I just thought about this. It could be like the look of a HomePod mini, but with like a screen coming out of it. Like a small screen, similar to about the size of an iPhone Pro Max, or a little bit bigger. So, who knows?
Who knows?
I don't think there's rumors of another HomePod being announced, but we'll see.
I definitely think it would be a major selling point for them if they can get it correct. Like, the people that love Apple and love the iPhone, they're going to hop on this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, cool. Another big thing that's nice, and I didn't really tend to notice this until this presentation, is now when you have widgets, you can interact with them.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. I think it's bigger on iPadOS for me than it is on iOS, because I don't have a ton of widgets that will just sit on my home screen that I can interact with. But I think it'd be nice if I could.
Definitely. I think this is again just more of a quality of life update. For me, at least widgets, the only thing I can see myself using it for is like for podcasts or like music, or just a quick look at something, like just quick access to that using widgets and interacting with it. I think overall it's not something big, like the next topic we're going to be talking about, but this is just more of a quality life update. I think, certain people will benefit more from than others on this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it depends on the widgets that you use. And I think the other thing to note is that third-party widgets will probably make this even better. And that might be some of the holdout for some third parties out there, app developers that haven't made widgets that are interactive, because there's no way to interact with them. So they've held out on making a widget that they might have had on Android. So yeah, I think it's like it's going to be a great thing. I'm looking forward to it again more on iPadOS, and I'll say this as I talk about that too. Some of these features are they're going to be the same on iPadOS, so we won't kind of loop back around. We'll kind of just talk about features that are more exclusive, and that leads to airdropping. So we alluded to this before with contact posters. Name drop, that's what I was trying to say before. Name drop is the sharing where you can hover two iPhones basically close together, and they create this really cool animation, and they just share the contact. I think that this is long overdue. Like being able to share this feature and have this be the way that you create contacts, because you get the information, and from what I understand, you can also control what you give to the other person. Because I have a lot of information on my contact list. So I don't want to share everything with everyone. Like, you don't need to know my home address, or some people do, but not everyone does.
You invite your coworkers to your house already. Hey, what's up? I need your help on this project. Here's my address.
Yeah, right? You can message me on Teams. Like,
yeah.
You don't need to message me on... We're not text message buddies right now.
Yeah, we're not on that level.
I don't know if you need that. Yeah, we're not there yet.
Something that I feel like is more... I think that'll lead more into... Like, this only works between iPhones right now, but I can definitely see them trying to implement this with other phones, just so, like, more seamless between people, because not everyone has iPhone.
Yes.
You know,
yep.
That's something that, that's depressing. Not everyone has an iPhone, but, I guess Android's fine. But I think, more important, whether it be, like, family or workers, would be the way how they're changing it, AirDrop toward sharing files and photos and internet access through the AirDrop system.
Yeah. So with AirDrop over the internet, basically, if you need to leave the Wi-Fi direct connection of AirDrop, AirDrop can continue by uploading the file from the other person over the internet, and then allowing the other person, the person that was trying to get the content, to download that over the internet. So we don't have to be in the same area. AirDrop is a great feature. I use it all the time because I shoot content on my iPhone and then edit it on either Mac or iPad, and I have to AirDrop all the time. There have been times where I've had such large files that I've had to connect, but mainly all the time AirDrop. And this function would allow me to not have to think about the AirDrop as much. Or if I'm trying to share something with you, I don't have to think about it. We can, I can just start the AirDrop and then just have it continue without having to worry about us staying in the same area.
Definitely better if, like, you're in a hurry, like, hey, I'll just AirDrop this to you real quick. It might take a minute, but it'll get to you. And then I definitely feel like the AirDrop system, I feel like they're definitely leaning toward more, like, being more social. Maybe that's, like, their intent, especially after COVID, but definitely, like, they're AirDropping SharePlay music in movies, for example.
Yeah. Yep.
That could be...
one of the enhancements in SharePlay that I like is, let's say we're in the car together and the car has CarPlay. With SharePlay, we can now share the same music, or if we're close proximity, we could start SharePlaying content. So the fact that they're using close proximity like AirDrop to be able to say, hey, we could start sharing content together, like we're about to go on a run together and we can listen to the same music by starting SharePlay just because we're in close proximity. So I think it's, again, like you said before, They're just trying to improve quality of life. And I'm really interested in the whole having people hijack the radio on a road trip and just having the playlist change as you go, because people can control that. So
Definitely, the same
that'll
fights are
be
gonna
interesting overall. Right? Yeah, it's going to be crazy. One thing, they announced a new app for iPhone, iPad, and I'm not sure if it's coming to macOS, but if it's not, it'll eventually come to macOS, I'm sure, is the Journal app. The Journal app, in my opinion, is not an app that I will begin to use initially, but I think it's a great app because, being able to write down things and having your iPhone remind you of writing down memories and things like that. I think journaling is healthy. It's just not something that I've started, but maybe eventually when the Journal app comes out, which I've heard. So the Journal app is not on the betas right now. And I think it's because they are planning on releasing it in 17.1. So Journal app is not coming initially on 17 release, but I've heard 17.1, and then I think it's still going to be a really cool app. Do you think you're going to journal?
Personally, I don't think I'll be journaling. I know, like, right now, I
Yeah.
definitely see with the Journal app being more centered around those with, like, self-consciousness or mental health, like, improvement.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that, like, using this as a form of a diary.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that it also, like, let's say you were just on a trip somewhere. It remembers location, the photos that you might have taken. It says, hey, this is a good thing to start an entry about, things like that. So I really like that. Something that has bothered me over the past few years, because I've been using iPhone for a long time, but for the past few years, is the keyboard and autocorrect and just the keyboard overall. So one of the things that Apple is updating with iOS 17 is kind of how the keyboard predicts how you're typing. It uses machine learning and on system to be able to get better at the keyboard. So far, the keyboard seems to be a little bit better on iOS 17. But the most important part of this is autocorrect. And I have not tried to do any of the weird autocorrectness. And it seems like it's getting smarter as I use it. But I feel like every time I install a new beta update, it kind of restarts some of the stuff. So we'll have to see more as iOS 15 actually rolls out. But I like the keyboard was so great when I first initially started iPhone, and I feel like it reached a point where it was really good, and then it started going down, and then I feel like it's trying to come back up, and I like that they're paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then especially with the machine learning they're implementing, like, over time, the more you type something out, the more it will autocorrect to what you are typing. So, like, if you got like a phrase, or for me, I like to use it I think it would be great for me for work because I got a lot of issues texting my boss certain phrases that are like not in the dictionary, but only at work. So, yeah. It's very tiring for you to have to constantly message over and over again and then delete what it's autocorrecting you maybe once or twice, maybe even 3 times. You just gotta watch it because if you're typing too fast, it can be very inconvenient.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I put in here Safari and passwords. I can't recall what we were going to talk about. I think I just put that as the update. I know that Safari had some major changes with profiles, private browsing, and password keys as well, pass keys. I've actually, so I'll say this. I don't know if it's because I've been on iOS 17. A couple of sites have actually offered to use passkey instead. And I actually find it really refreshing that I can use my Apple ID password or mainly just Face ID to be able to log into information. So I could say that Safari has not felt that different to me, but passkey I can see as more companies start to take it on, that it's going to be a huge thing, because instead of having to enter passwords, it's just going to be even better of an experience.
Definitely. I think Apple is just joining, like, I hate to say it, but I feel like Apple is just joining the bandwagon. I know Google's already implemented this, and, having a
Yeah.
Google account is very useful to just be able to use like a secure device that you already have on hand to approve an access to a
Yeah.
different device or a website. And it's more
Yeah.
secure than actually typing in your password.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So,
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where we need to be going, because people's creation of passwords they're not inventive. They're not creative. They typically use a lot of the same passwords. They don't use two-factor authentication, unless they're forced to use two-factor authentication. And I think this is an important step in passwords overall for people. So I agree.
yeah, definitely. I think
All right.
one of the reasons I like Apple in general is just because, at least to me, I know it kind of a placebo effect, but I feel like Apple is just more secure, and I definitely feel like the passkey, having this is just even better. And then also, along with security, I definitely like the new feature they're going with, the photo library, where you can certain apps will ask you to gain access to your photo library, and now you can select on which photos are allowed and what groups they can have, rather than just give them full access to your library.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, no, even though there's a lot of prompts in all of Apple's systems, honestly, giving me choice to be able to say, yes, I'll give this app that kind of access, and give that third party this kind of access. I think it's definitely one of the reasons why I came back to iOS, and it's one of the reasons why I trust Apple a lot with a lot of my stuff, overall. So, no, I couldn't agree more. This episode of the Refresh Techcast is brought to you by Caseborne by Armadillo Tech. Looking for the ultimate protection for your phone? Look no further than Caseborne. The inner honeycomb design and reinforced corners provide extra protection when you drop your phone. Plus, enjoy sensitive tactile buttons, a protective screen protector, and even dust-proof plugins. And with a built-in kickstand, you can enjoy your favorite YouTube videos or TikToks easily. Caseborne by Armadillo Tech goes above and beyond. It meets 4-time military drop test standards with a maximum drop height of up to 21 feet. Ready to protect your investment? Head over to getcaseborne.com/refresh and use code REFRESH at checkout to receive an exclusive 20% discount. Kind of transitioning over to iPadOS. Again, I'm not going to go over this. And Ray, I know you don't personally use an iPad on a day-to-day basis, right?
No, I used to have an iPad. It was great, but I feel like back then it was too limiting. But now I can definitely, like, it's the way they're changing the iPad, it's definitely can rivaling their other, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, even the Mac desktop.
Yeah. So I use a 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the M1 processor. And it's funny that I say that, and we've talked about this. My iPad is more powerful than the Mac that's sitting behind me, because I have the M1 with 8 gigs of RAM behind me and a 256 gig hard drive. And my iPad is 1 terabyte with 16 gigs of RAM. But of course, they run different OSs, so they utilize everything a little bit differently. But I'm curious to see where you're seeing iPadOS go. For me, just like upfront, iPadOS 17, when I saw it, I was a little disappointed initially. Using it on a day-to-day basis, I can see some of the quality of life changes. Starting off with, I saw this happening when they announced it with iOS 16, and they didn't announce it with iPadOS 16. Widgets on the lock screen and having those on there and having a customized lock screen, it's just, I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's here. There's a lot of great widgets available for iPad. In my opinion, iPadOS is really great with widgets. And it's really because you have so much screen real estate, you can manage all of your widgets, and there are people that have just whole screens, just widgets, because you can use the app drawer and hide away your apps, or you can use your dock to put in a bunch of apps and basically just use widgets. But what do you think? You know, it's finally here for iPadOS. And that's kind of how I feel about it. And that also leads into interactive widgets too. So,
Definitely. I think, outsider perspective on the iPad, I used to have one. They were great. But like I said, I feel like
yeah.
now they're paying attention more to iPad. They're trying to give people more
Mm-hmm.
options. It used to be more of like you have the iPhone and then you have technically the iPad, bigger iPhone. But now
Yeah.
iPad's got its own distinct identity. It's moving toward more the laptops for portability
Yeah.
and for operation
Yep.
ability. Just overall, great, definitely giving people more options. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see myself picking up an iPad, but maybe in a year or two, I can definitely see myself, when I want to upgrade, switching to iPad rather than buying a whole MacBook.
Yeah. No, I think iPadOS it's getting better, you know, um, and I think that, you know, the next generation of iPads, I think, are going to add even more functionality. And we just hope that iPadOS continues to evolve and I wouldn't say that it gets closer to macOS, because I think some of the things that they've changed. So, a big app that I have written on here that I think has been more important to me recently than it has been over time is adding the health app is really nice. So I can view all of my health information inside of the iPad, have a bigger template or a bigger screen to be able to view all of that information is great. I've tried the Freeform app, which is available on iPhone and on macOS, and having some new ways that you can work with people and have new pen options is really nice. I think I was actually using Freeform the other day, and I think it defaulted to the new pen, which I didn't expect, but I actually liked how it was writing. So it, to me, and I'm really big on how things write when you're using the Apple Pencil. And then the other thing, and I need to play around with it more. I don't. Have you ever played around with Stage Manager on Mac?
I have not, but I definitely know that they're
Okay.
changing the iPad's window system, similar to how
Yep.
you can change it on macOS, where you can just adjust the window sizes.
Yeah. So as long as the app supports a lot of different window variations, so for the most part, if an app has availability of an iPhone app and a Mac or and an iPad app, it'll adjust the window accordingly. But now you have more. What it used to do was it snapped more, so there was only a handful of options for trying to manage windows, and now with iPadOS 17, you have more flexibility. One of the other things that's happened with this, so Stage Manager is a huge connection to hooking up an external monitor and using an external monitor with an iPad, which kind of makes it feel like it's its own computer, right? At this point, because you can use a big screen and the iPad screen. You still, and I'm just going to note this, you can still not use it in clamshell mode. So you can't close the iPad and just use the big screen. You can't do that. And then just note too is that iPadOS is still a touch first system. So some of the stuff, even with cursor support, is still a little weird. Like how you navigate apps is still a little weird. That's more a third party thing because Apple is really nailing that. But you can hook up an external camera now to this. So if you have a webcam and you hook it up to your iPad and you have it on either on iPad standalone or you have it on a big display, you can use an external camera, which was a big thing because when you were on a FaceTime call or in a Zoom meeting or something like that, it would use the iPad's camera, which looks really weird when you're looking at a giant screen. But it's also cool that you can use the camera and actually center it on an iPad Pro or any iPad that is not the iPad 10th gen that has the camera in the center when you're in landscape, which is nice. So it's a good thing. I'm going to ask you this. Have you seen that someone has made a capture card app that they're testing and that you could hook up? So when this iPadOS 17 feature came out, people were like, well, I guess that means that you could hook up a USB accessory that has a camera interface. And then it was like, wait, you can hook up a capture card and then hook up another device to that. And we're talking, people have been testing gaming systems and to be able to hook up to the iPad. And when I saw this at first, I was like, what the heck are they doing this? But you can basically use the iPad as a monitor. The app, as far as I know, is not available in the App Store yet. But have you seen this?
I actually have not, but I definitely know that Apple is definitely trying to get into more gaming, because right now, I at least know like Apple's not really known for their gaming, but with their Apple Arcade, they're definitely trying to push into it. And then, well, later on, we're going to talk about it more in the macOS, but they're definitely trying to get a foot in the door with that.
I just wonder if this is something that they'll figure out how to lock down or if they're just going to let it happen. Because the fact that you can hook up so a USB-C to HDMI connector and then have that connect in, and I get what you would use it for. Technically, you could use it for an external camera like a DSLR and hook up that to be your webcam. But some people have hooked up to a console like a Nintendo Switch or a PS5 or an Xbox One and have the iPad basically be the monitor. And at first I thought, oh, I mean, they're just using like Xbox cloud gaming or something like that to be able to play this. No, this is happening live, no latency issues or anything because it's hardwired in. So it's crazy. But yeah, I'm excited for iPadOS 17. Honestly, it's worked pretty well overall. And, I think that leads into macOS. So macOS Sonoma, a lot of this, again, is repeat, but and we're not going to try to be repetitive. But one of the things that you can kind of tell behind me here on my screen is widgets on the desktop. So you can actually place widgets on the desktop. And one of the things I thought was really cool is you can actually, using continuity, you have to be on the same Wi-Fi connection, but you can actually add widgets that are supposed to be for your iPhone onto your Mac.
Right. Like, I feel like this just plays into their whole ecosystem idea, is what they just want all their devices to work connected. Like, everything's connected, seamless working together. That's definitely something I feel like they have over, some of their competition. Just the seamless design of their systems working together at the same time. You work on something on your phone, you can slap it on your Mac immediately as soon as you get home for a bigger screen or something that you couldn't do on your phone.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorite things. Continuity overall, one of my favorite things, just Apple products in general. Video conferencing. So I saw the presentation again, and the presenter overlay is something that you see inside of, like I see it inside of Microsoft Teams at work. And I think it's pretty cool that you could place yourself into a PowerPoint. The one that I thought was really cool, though, is that you could have, like, let's say you saw a PowerPoint just right behind me. Like, if I was presenting a PowerPoint and it was just right behind me, I thought that one was like kind of a next level presentation. And it kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of looks like if we're using augmented reality and using like Vision OS to show something. So
I can they're definitely going to be playing into that with the release of their Vision OS systems. Like they're going to
yeah,
be, I feel like they're definitely the pioneers of augmented reality over, virtual reality of other companies like Meta going for virtual
yeah,
reality. Apple is pushing for augmented to make it more seamless with the real world. And I feel like that's honestly the future of Apple. I see them taking on that over the other companies and people joining on simply because
yeah.
technology interface with the real world is going to be essentially the future until way, way down the line.
I agree.
But yeah, it's yeah.
I think next overall was so this is a silly thing, and I think I can get it to work because I accidentally got this to work when we were right before we started recording. Is now you can react in a any kind of call. So you could be FaceTime, you could be in a Zoom meeting, you could be in Microsoft. You can do hand reactions, and I'm trying to remember what they are. I think if I throw two thumbs up, there you go. Right, it's fireworks. So you can react with your hands with macOS, iPadOS, and I think with iPhone. So basically, I don't know what the other ones are. I think I was throwing up two, and there's balloons. It's a cool thing. I think it's cool. Like I would love to just have this happen in a meeting where someone's just like, "Great job, great job." I don't know if I have to have both in frame. Oh, what is happening? I don't know what that was. Anyway, you can react with your hands. Are you going to use this in like a class? I got to ask.
I don't see myself using it in the class. I feel like this will be happening like in many like conferences by accident, and that's definitely
Oh,
just feels
yeah.
like something it borderline like something like an April Fool's joke in a way. But like just
Yeah.
something to add more life into their features is something that's what they were going for with this, and it definitely will, especially when it
It is.
randomly happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I triggered the balloons earlier before we started recording, but it was hilarious. Um anyway, um Safari profiles. I don't I don't really see myself using this feature, but I could get the sense of why you would use this feature. When I was reading through this feature, I was like, I don't know how you would explain it. And then when I watched WWDC again, it made sense to have profiles that switch between things like work and school or work and personal. So I don't know. Is it something that you think you're going to try to utilize?
Me personally, not
Do you use
really.
Safari?
I do, but I just don't see how profiles would benefit me. I feel like this would be more of like if you're using the Mac or something between like your
Yeah.
family members, or maybe if you
Oh,
have like
yeah.
a lot of companies now are doing bring your own devices systems, and I can definitely
Hmm.
see it where like you can have profiles like
You have a work
one's for
profile.
work and one's for personal, and you lock the personal
Yeah.
in case your boss shows up. Or if you're
Right.
that
Exactly.
employee, you're on your personal, and then as soon as the boss walks by, oh, I'm on my work one, I swear.
Well, I can say this. If I used Mac OS, I would probably use this for work because we use Windows based computers. But I would probably do that to change my bookmarks um, because when I present at work and I'm sharing my screen, you can see my bookmarks. I've intentionally placed specific bookmarks so that way you can only see the basic ones and things that just don't throw you off. but there's a lot of random bookmarks. Maybe you don't need to see that I access my Gmail sometimes. Maybe that's not important. I doubt that people really read into that, but sometimes when I can assume that when I am talking at length about something that your eyes may just wander to my bookmarks and you're just looking and seeing what I have. So I could see that as a benefit inside of there. I could see it a benefit in school if you're trying to present something as well. But I also get that, again, I think what you said, I agree with the whole family thing. So being able to switch your profiles and have different bookmarks show up. Then again, on Mac, I could also have it where we have multiple profiles. So just logging into the Mac.
Definitely logging into the Mac and just having, something slight profiles, maybe on your personal, you're looking for a new job. You definitely don't want your boss seeing that.
No, you don't. You don't.
You don't want that. No one wants that.
Don't be the person that prints out your resume on the work printer either. Just don't do that.
And if you are, make sure you better get to that printer first.
Yeah, you hear that printer going off, you run to the printer, right? The other thing, I just remembered this rewatching WWDC. You can add websites now to your dock as an app.
Oh, yeah.
I need to try this out, but I think that's actually a really cool thing. And because if there are certain websites that you just access all the time, I think this is a great feature to be able to add websites. And actually, they're supposed to take up the icon, design their own icon, launch into a limited menu, so that way it doesn't look like you're actually on the website. I think it's really cool.
I can definitely see this as a workaround too between like the different app stores. The macOS store and the iOS store are very different, and I can see it to where around between adding the app store, you can just open it up on your Mac and make its own icon as if it was an app.
Yeah. Do you think this is their like way of telling like the EU that, hey, like there are ways to load up more stuff onto devices? Of course, the Mac is more open than any of the other operating systems, but yeah.
I feel like it's a way to work around it. I feel like too late. Too late. They've already ruled on it, but it's definitely a workaround to keep people into their ecosystem rather than like going to these Google Play stores or, leading into the gaming sphere like Epic Store.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I remember that whole deal. Anyway, talking about gaming. So what are your thoughts on the whole dedicated gaming mode on macOS?
This is definitely, I feel like this along with what we last just talked about are definitely the highlights for me. I don't see myself switch like gaming on the Mac, but I can definitely see it taking on the form of its own gaming console, or like if you have enough money for, the Mac, but you don't have enough money for like a 4K TV, you could use the Mac. But
yeah.
You just built in right here, or if you really just don't want to waste the extra space on like your console being nearby, you just have it on your Mac. And
yeah,
it's definitely gonna, I feel like, combating the whole Steam thing that they're definitely trying to fight Steam on this because of the whole Steam Deck that they got now. I can see this being like a beta into them adding this to like iPads and iPhones more direct.
Yeah. I think the more that they try to focus on enhancing the gaming experience, and then the other side of this is that they announced that it's supposed to be easier to port out games that are already developed to macOS. I think, like you're saying, it could lead more into handheld gaming on iPhone and iPad, and just continuing to enhance that experience. I think it's exciting. I like the, lower latency with Bluetooth controllers. The if you want to use AirPods, the latency with that. Um, it's really cool to see, and I'm glad that they continue to try and push this, because it's definitely the area that they're struggling with the most with Mac, is trying to get that gaming power, and they're trying to push that Apple Silicon is powerful enough to handle gaming, and I imagine maybe not the processors that we have, which are you're using an M1, I have M1. I think it's powerful, but I don't know if it's powerful enough. Whereas things like the M2 Pro and Max and the Ultra, I think those allow for more capability. We already see the creative side really loving this, but I think if Apple can nail this down with graphics, then they can get more, and I'm sure there'll be more developers that are willing to take that jump.
Definitely, they're definitely trying to move away from their competitors. Like right now, with when they released the M1 chip, the very first time they released it, it was basically them saying to Intel, "We don't need you. We got our own chip.
Yeah.
We can do it on our own. We don't
Mm-hmm.
need you anymore." They get supplies from Samsung. Why do they want to add another like competitor to their list that they have to get supplies from? So this is
Yeah.
definitely like a case where they're just cutting out a middleman in a way. And with
Yeah.
them taking on, gaming, and like how we talked about with the whole standby mode, it could lean
Yeah.
into like their own Google Nest. They're definitely trying to fight on. I hope this isn't a way of them overextending themselves, but they're definitely trying to fight on multiple grounds with these other tech companies.
Yeah. And I think that's where they should be heading. I don't think that they're reaching a point where they're stretching themselves too thin quite yet. I don't think we've seen that, but I think they're starting to get squared up and ready for those areas that they know they've been lacking in, and they're trying to push that focus in. So WatchOS. The main things that I'll say about WatchOS and using it is it semi feels like a minor update, but in a way, because the way that the interface looks and feels is very similar. But the other thing is that, and I think I explained this to you a couple weeks ago when I had switched, the way you navigate feels completely different, and it's a little jarring at first, and I'm still getting used to it. But one of the biggest changes that's happened is when you push certain buttons on your watch, they now do different actions. So getting into Control Center on your watch is not a swipe up anymore. You have to push the power button to be able to access that. And then swiping up actually accesses these widgets that give you quick action that you can actually change if you want to add additional widgets and things like that. And then the other thing that I'm really loving in a lot of use cases is that apps take up the whole screen and they want to change how you're navigating it. But what are your thoughts on WatchOS so far? Taking a look at what Apple has shown.
I definitely think that they're changing it up. Um, there's a bunch of things going on with WatchOS, and that the navigation system that they're changing with the watch, coming from the old system, it's gonna be a learning curve for me, but I can definitely see
Yeah,
this as being more useful. And then, especially with what they're trying to do, they're trying to make their devices like easier to use and more accessible
yeah,
to everyone.
yeah. And they're really trying to push that screen boundary. So, like on the Series 8 that I'm using right now, it's pushing the interface all through the screen, which is really nice to see because I like that it's trying to take up a majority of the screen or all of the screen. But I mean, the thing is that a lot of it just looks, in my opinion, it just looks super super nice. Like the now playing screen is one of my favorite things that's changed. The now playing screen before was like a very small album art and just a play and pause control with mostly black interface, and now they're adding so much color to the OS. Instead of having everything be black, it's very much full color, full vibrancy of it. And they're basically saying our screens can handle pushing all of this color out. Like we're not as worried about battery life for the next versions of WatchOS. I wouldn't say that's a downside though. Like I haven't noticed terrible battery life other than some of the beta function, just being in a beta. But it is cool to see that they want to continue to push this, because I think it's going to try to bring back more developers onto WatchOS.
Definitely. I think just them changing the interface and prioritizing the features rather than increasing battery life, because I know that's a huge thing for some people, is like every year they got to have a better battery. We got to get even better. The only problem with that is they're taking focus away from like these features that can make the actual device even better, like software wise rather than the hardware. And I definitely, like it's just better, and they can make software that makes battery usage even better as well, rather than focus on the hardware.
Exactly. I agree. Did you have anything else in WatchOS to add?
Something minor. I feel like this is more like leading into like their fitness category, and like they're trying to make it for like athletes. What they're they're coming out with like Ultra, the Apple Watch Ultras, is the new features in the compass and cycling. The compass app now works for like SOS, or like if you're going on like nature trails or hiking, it can display the actual like hiking locations and like nearby trails that you could go on, how long they are.
Oh yeah.
And what. And I think this is just something that, if you're, for the very small percentage of the population, they're going to be enjoying this. And they're definitely playing into like where a superior fitness app than, like a Fitbit.
Oh yeah. No, I think, their main competition into that is companies like Garmin. They're going after those companies and they're trying to add more functionality to it. I like the changes to map on WatchOS to really enhance the hiking experience. The other thing I liked about the compass was that it can add the last time that you were connected to cell service, so that way you could use full cell service. And then the other thing was connection for SOS. So that way, if you're in an emergency, you know where the last location was and how what the elevation was of that location was. So they now have Compass be 3D interactive map, basically that kind of shows here's how high up you were when you had that cell service, or here's how up you were when you had connection to SOS, things like that. So no, I agree. Those are some minor things, and the cycling stuff looks really cool. The synchronization with iPhone, to where you could have your iPhone basically show as your cycling computer. I think that's really cool because you're getting the information from your watch and it's throwing it back onto your iPhone. It's such a really cool feature. I'm not a cyclist myself, but I think for cyclists, I'm sure there are some things that they would still love to have, but it's getting better. And I think they're continuing to pay attention to areas and adding more to the Apple Watch. The fitness capability with each update is really cool, because it just means it's going to encompass more activities that people like to do, and they'll be able to get the information that they want.
Definitely. And I like side topic here, talking about like the Apple Maps. Like I definitely feel like their whole rebranding of their Apple Maps is just been great. Like it's working well with like their new functionality with the Compass app and Trails. it's going to work well and it's going to make people
Yeah.
want to use it more rather than like Google Maps, which is like, I feel like it's losing traction because they're not really doing many other like important things and updating it like Apple has.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about Apple Maps and why I've actually like I've moved away, like I used to use Waze all the time, but now I've slowly like
Yeah.
using both Apple Maps and Waze is with Apple
Yeah.
Maps, and I haven't seen this on Google Maps, and which is surprising to me because they've had such like a monopoly over like their map system is the traffic system.
Mm-hmm.
When you're traveling through like
Mm-hmm.
cities or towns on Apple Maps, they will show
Mm-hmm.
you like the next stop sign or when the light's coming up. And on Google Maps, I have not
Yeah.
seen that. And it's very odd to me
Yeah.
that Google lacks in this. Like it doesn't seem like a big deal, but like if you're in an area you're not familiar with, it's very useful to have. And the
Oh,
communication you get
definitely.
from
No,
it.
I agree. Yeah. I 1,000% agree. So, like when I travel, having the ability to understand traffic signals, stop signs, and things like that, when especially when they're hard to see, and being able to know that my turn is at a light versus a stop sign, um, and this is something that Google Maps has done for a little while. It was something that I think Waze has started to implement recently, but Apple Maps has been doing pretty much since the beginning is like understanding lanes, especially when you're on the highway. Um, it's not always perfect, but in my experience, it works way more often than I've seen with some other map systems. And it was something that made me switch away from Waze overall. Other than I liked Waze for the social traffic updates, but it's all of the map systems are getting better at that. And um, yeah, the whole stoplight, the stop sign, and then the lanes, those were big things for me with Apple Maps.
Definitely. And then I
So
think
can agree.
also like the integration of the voiceover in the navigation compared to
Mhm.
Google, like Apple will tell me updatedly, like you're going to be turning it this light, whereas on Google they'll tell you in like 800 feet you're going to be making this turn. I'm like, I don't, I
Yeah,
don't care enough to do measurements in my head as I'm driving.
yeah, exactly. Right. That's just not necessary. I like the connection kind of coming back to the watch too. I always like the connection with the watch too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, especially if you're walking in the city, you can use the watch's interface to be able to see where you're going. And then it taps you in certain ways to tell you if you're supposed to turn right or left. So I've always liked that feature. But I like that it does that even on even when I'm driving in the car. I can still see what what's coming up, and my watch can actually tap me and say, "Hey, you got a turn or an exit coming up," things like that. So couldn't agree more. So I think the last OS we're talking about, because we're not really talking about home, is tvOS. And the only thing that I really had for this, so tvOS has had some minor changes. Again, it's the one operating system I haven't updated and trialed yet. Actually, after watching WWDC, I am installing it on my main Apple TV um, as we speak. So hopefully, I'll have more about that at a later point. But and we alluded to this earlier. FaceTime is coming to tvOS, and I think it's a great thing. Um, they're going to have continuity camera. One of the things that they announced at WWDC, though, is that Zoom and WebEx are coming to Apple TV too. And I think the most exciting thing for me is this is going to open the door to applications like that to be able to have video conferencing apps on Apple TV, which means that this is more of a enterprise thing to me. And I know you also had some enterprise notes for tvOS, but when you're talking about setting up a conference room or conference space and picking a system to be able to do this, some people will actually hook up computers. Some people, like my work, we have We have Microsoft wireless display adapters to be able to display our Windows computers onto the TV screens. But if we're conferencing with someone in a room, having an Apple TV with an iPhone, and being able to use just those devices to video conference with people, I think is going to be a game changer for setting up these rooms.
Definitely. I think also, like, I know that some companies are fighting against this, but this will definitely help with the argument of work from home. Like, the more that work from home becomes more accepted, like, this can be something that,
Yeah.
Apple can play with. Ironically, they're fighting against it,
Yeah.
but I can definitely see it being for that. We work from
Yeah.
home. If you have a conference, you just use your Apple TV. You already got one. And if you
Yeah.
don't got one yet,
If you don't have one yet, here's another reason why you could consider it. Or if your company uses Mac and or iPhone and things like that, and you're using one of these apps like Zoom or WebEx, you can consider utilizing an Apple TV now in a conference area to be able to make those calls and host those meetings, things like that. And I'm sure that you could still join those meetings from a Mac to be able to share screen. But when you're in a room setting with multiple people and you're meeting with someone, it's so much easier to just have a single camera that can capture the whole room, is placed in a centralized location, like above a TV or below the TV, and just make it easier. And just using an like an Apple TV to be able to connect that, I mean, it's going to be a game changer. I'm curious to see if apps like Microsoft Teams, which is what my company uses for these types of things, would also consider making an app. I know Microsoft has been, they love testing out a bunch of Apple stuff, so I'm curious to see if that's something that they're considering doing. If not now, maybe at a later point after tvOS is out for a little while, and seeing how people utilize this feature. I'm excited about it, and excited to see what happens next with it.
definitely. And off topic, but they're updating the software, so now they can support the VPN. And I know VPN right now has become like huge. So like, not only can you like bring this brick with you now, like if you're traveling for
Yeah,
work, you can bring the Apple TV brick with you to these hotels, use VPN, and now you can have access to your stuff from the hotel room.
yeah, yeah. No,
It's
I think,
something.
bringing VPN capabilities to tvOS makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then also on the side note, I don't have one, but I'm sure this can happen. Is finding a remote, and Siri can help you with this with their
Yeah,
new.
that was one of the other reasons why I'm trying this out. So when I updated to iOS 17, but I didn't have it on tvOS, it kind of popped up for a second because I sometimes use my iPhone to control my Apple TV, um, especially when the remote is not near me. So I'm curious to see how this feature works because right now I have a case on my Apple TV remote with an AirTag inside of it, so I can find the remote. Now I'm wondering if I can use the AirTag for something else and, you know, stop using that and have the remote be findable some other way. I was, uh, this is a huge side note. When they changed the remote, I was really disappointed that they did not build this in because they had already
Definitely.
announced the AirTag.
Yeah. It feels like
I was like,
something that like they would have thought ahead for. Like it's something that
yeah, if
everyone loses.
everyone loses the remote, everyone loses the remote. This was something that they could have just had from the start. But I'm glad that it's here. I'm curious to test it and see how well it works, because the AirTag, one of the big differences that I know is that the AirTag can be found using the U1 chip inside of it, and then the other thing is that it can be you can have it play sound. That's probably going to be the big difference. But the U1 chip works so well, so I'm curious how Bluetooth, or if they installed a U1 chip. I don't know, but it's going to be cool to see. One thing that you brought up before, so bringing an Apple TV to a hotel room, and I should have put this early in the AirPlay, but I love that eventually, I don't know how long this is going to take. From what I was reading, it's working with certain LG TVs, and I don't know what that means, but you'll soon be able to AirPlay at certain hotels to the TVs that are already at the hotel. And I can't tell you that this feature needs to happen. It should have already happened, but I'm excited that it's coming at some point. I hope it doesn't take that long, but we'll see.
I can see the why they haven't, because I know there's a lot. Apple's very particular about their systems. They're very security centric. I can see them seeing where like certain developers of TVs don't give them like the permissions that they want, to make sure that there's no way, there's going to be something that slips in the cracks and infiltrates the system of your device owner, because what better like way to show that your iPhone got hacked because you decided to use the iPhone for one of its features to AirDrop to a hotel TV.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the main reason why it hasn't come out is, one, hotels don't update their TVs that often, and two, so hotels lock down their TVs a lot. I mean, they will turn off HDMI ports on their TVs too. So it just depends on where you go. And sometimes it doesn't even depend on the chain of hotels that you go to. But it's a feature that will come eventually. It'll be a nice feature when the next time you stay at a hotel and you want to just watch content that's available, and you don't want to log in. Some hotels offer the feature where you could log into your personal Netflix or YouTube, and they're just like, and then I'm like, wait, I don't want to log into my stuff on this TV. And they're just like, it'll erase. Nope, I don't trust it. So yeah, this is a better function, because at least I'm controlling I don't need to log in. You don't get my content. You just get what I'm trying to play. So I'm excited
definitely.
about
And
that.
then I think along with this, the whole thing about I know this is a major problem with Airbnb, like hotels are now too, where like things will be left and they have a camera in them or something. And then like if you put in your password for a certain like service, well now they just got your password that you just put in there, and back to the whole thing about passwords.
Yeah, exactly.
People use the same passwords for everything. Now you just gave them access to everything.
Yep. We don't want that. Don't do that.
Yeah,
don't
do
sign
that.
into your accounts.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
So we are recording this maybe about 10 days before the next Apple event. So the rumor is that this is a September event. So this is definitely going to be an iPhone event. The headline for the event that was sent out to reporters is Wonderlust. I don't really know what that means, but I wanted to get your take on what you think is going to happen at this September 12th event.
Well, obviously, like we're expecting the new iPhone to be released. That's their major like selling point right there, is the iPhone. Everyone wants the new iPhone. Yeah. If you're an Android user, I'm sorry, but you need an iPhone. Get with the program. But like what I'm wanting is like, it's very like, I guess it's only for me that's important for, but I'm wanting them to add Touch ID to the iPhone because they already brought it to the iPad and I don't have it for the iPhone.
So you miss Touch ID?
I miss Touch ID on my phone. They've already done it with the power button on the iPad. Just just put it to the iPhone. Sometimes I don't want to look at my phone to open it. It's so much quicker if I pull it out of my pocket. As I'm lifting it up, it's already unlocked because I'm holding the power button. It's a quality of life thing. You've already got these other updates in the iOS system for quality of life. You just add this one thing for me.
I mean, Face ID has gotten faster. I can tell you that with the 14, it's gotten faster. But I can see what you're saying, giving people options.
Yeah, some people, my coworker, he's very against doing the Face ID because he got the new iPhone. He's very old. He's like, I'm not giving people my Face ID. I'm like, in reality, if someone wants your Face ID, there's plenty of cameras around. You lost your right to your face a long time ago. But he's very against that.
Got a driver's license.
Yep. Driver's license. Cameras can
They
be hacked.
already got your face.
Yeah, they already got your face. If they really want your face, they got it.
Yeah.
It's too late.
It's already happened. Yeah. Yeah. Now, so of course, the big expectation of the iPhone 15 series is that it's switching to USB-C. So we're about to make a big port switch. I think it's funny that I've been seeing online that some of the vendors are starting to promote USB-C, really hinting at this. So it's becoming way more obvious that is coming to play. Of course, this USB-C transition is happening because of the EU coming down and saying that manufacturers by I think 2024 need to switch to the common standard USB-C. So, are you excited? Are you hoping that Apple doesn't do anything weird with the USB-C port? What are your thoughts?
I'm all for it. Having a universal charger, it makes it easier for people to switch over to iPhone because I don't have to buy a new charger. But for me with the Lightning charger, you better have a charger in that iPhone that I buy because I'm gonna be very upset if I don't have a USB-C charger with my phone. When I got the
They always come
Lightning
with a cable.
Yeah, you never know. They already took the brick. They're coming for the cable. The cable's
they
gonna
might
be gone
one day.
They already set their sight.
I don't think they're doing it anytime soon. I mean, the rumor this past week is that they are going to ship a braided cable with the iPhone 15 series, which I don't really believe, because they don't do that now on iPhone or iPad. They only do it with certain Macs. Like, did your Mac come with a braided cable?
I do. I love this thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But it's yours is USB-C to Lightning, right?
Yeah, it
because
is.
That's how the Mac accessories. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I don't think they're going to ship braided cables, but it would be nice if they shipped longer cables with the iPhone. I'll say this about the USB-C transition. I'm excited for it to switch over and finally have a common standard. I have a bunch of USB-C cables, so I'm not worried about it. But, I mean, I really hope that, the big thing I'm worried about is that they're going to figure out some way to proprietize the USB-C cable in some way, or the port in some way. My main thing that I'm hoping for is that they put Thunderbolt capability in the Pro series and eventually it come down the line. So that way, faster data speeds for transferring data, but also faster speeds for potentially charging. That's always been my big thing, is having faster charging. I think the rumor is that the iPhone Pro lineup is supposed to be able to support 30 or 35 watt charging, which should add pretty decent speed to the lineup for recharge. And then they're supposed to have bigger batteries too. But I don't know. As far as anything else that could happen next week, there's rumors that we're going to get new Apple Watches, of course. Series 9 watches. There's a rumored second version of the Apple Watch Ultra. But, I'm curious to see if there's something that they haven't, that's not in the rumor mill now that we could hope for, but it seems like it's just watch and iPhone. You think, could there be something else that they announce?
They could very well announce like more, back to what we were talking about, gaming. Like they're coming out with this gaming mode for like Mac. Could they be coming out with more gaming options for their phones or iPad? Like something
Maybe.
that they're not leading, like they're not advertising yet because they're wanting a big reveal. If they did that, like I said before, it would be very much a direct attack against like these mobile games like the Nintendo Switch or the Steam Deck.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think I'm hopeful for is when they announce standby mode, I wanted to see if they were going to announce also a HomePod with a display. I don't know if that's a connection to more of the Mac than it is with the iPhone, but typically a Mac stuff would be announced in October and iPhone is pretty much September, and the watch kind of follows suit with the iPhone. I don't think we're expecting new iPads anytime soon, so we'll see. But yeah, September event. Those are the main predictions. We'll see what actually happens. Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Back to what I want. It's very much a me thing. Bring back Touch ID to the iPhone.
Touch ID.
Touch ID to the iPhone.
That's the thing that's the surprise announcement. Is iPhone 15 is going to support Touch ID again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bring it back. It's been years. I've been waiting. I'll keep waiting.
Well, if you made it this far into the episode, honestly, thank you for listening to the whole episode. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're listening to this in a podcast platform, don't forget to add this to your library or subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate the podcast. We're planning to release these at least once a week if we can. But we'll try and get these out as we can get the schedules aligned and try to get on a regular cadence. This is the first episode of the Refresh Techcast. Again, my name is Arthur, and I appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. Ray, take them out.
Then my name's Raymond. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the time you've been. If you've been here this entire time, congrats to you.
Congrats to you. All right.
Congrats to you.